AJ, Anthony Joshua.
Wow. 199.4.
Like that? Who do you think you are? I am!
You did say something, and I'm paraphrasing here, so please correct me if I'm misinterpreting it. You said if I could kill him, I'll kill him.
Yeah.
Your old foe, Tyson Fury, today called you a classless loser for saying something like that you shouldn't say that as a boxer. Could you explain to us what you meant by that, and could you please respond to Tyson's statement?
It's my job. We fight. We're licensed to kill. I'm sure many people don't understand it, but this is what my job is, and I just enjoy what I do. Whatever happens, happens. As long as my hand's raised, that's what's important, right? Respectfully. That's just the mentality we have to have as fighters. I don't know if any other fighter thinks that way. Maybe they're a bit more tamed. But the things I watch and the way my mind works, when you're in that ring, it's a dangerous place to be, and anything can happen. And you hope your opponent leaves the ring safely, but if they don't, you know, you still have to go to bed at night knowing that you've just done your job. It wasn't personal.
The final press conference felt like two completely different energies sharing the same stage, and that's what made it electric. It started light, almost playful.
Do you think that Jake Paul's fearlessness creates a challenge for you?
Yeah, definitely. Jake Paul creates a great challenge for me. And he's got a great mindset for sure. Great family, great brother, great person. So yeah, it definitely creates a good challenge for me. But as I said earlier, competition is really good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
AJ, you called this the ultimate barbershop fight, the ultimate plane fight. Everyone's talking about it. I love that description. I'm wondering, when you were in Valencia training, maybe back home a little bit here in Miami, are a lot of people coming up to you and saying, can you please knock this guy out? That seems to be the sentiment. Are they coming up to you and saying that?
Nah. They're respectful. People are respectful.
They are?
They're like
I saw in the video there were people there outside the press conference saying, end this man, end this man.
Yeah, you do hear it, but remember, we don't focus on the negative.
True. No, that's just a sentiment that I feel like people are saying to you.
They're just saying, good luck, do your best. You know, that's a great fight. I heard people say like, I'm not really into boxing, but I'm watching this fight. But no one's really coming up to me saying anything about Jake or they want me to knock him out. Just positive vibes.
Okay.
With Jake joking about AJ listening to something better than me, and Joshua brushing it off with that cool, unbothered smile. But even in that moment, you could feel the competition humming under the surface.
Let's put on a show for the fans. Let's go to war. Men have done crazier things throughout human history. This is the modern day gladiator sport. This is what we're here to do, is f*** each other up, and I'm ready. I want his hardest punches. I want there to be no excuses when it's all said and done, and let's f*** each other.
Then Jake flipped the switch, planting the first real psychological seed by calling this the potential biggest loss of AJ's career, talking about nerves, timing, and strategy like he already had Joshua mapped out. Joshua didn't rush to fire back. He waited, then dropped the coldest line of the night, calmly explaining that fighters are licensed to finish, and that this is simply his job.
Oh, we have to focus on more positive.
Exactly, that's why I'm not gonna ask you about that. But Jake, do you view
push your confidence.
Absolutely. Do you view it this way? Do you view it as old guard versus new guard, that he's representing boxing and he's been tasked with ending the Jake Paul experience and it's up to you to keep it going?
Not really, no. I mean, I think no one's done more for the sport of boxing in the past decade than myself. So I think if people really cared about boxing, they'd want me to win. But I see where the angle that they're coming from is that he's, you know, the traditional boxer, has been doing it his whole life, etc. But I think that I'm more important for the sport of boxing, and so if they actually cared about the sport, they would want me to win.
Jake tried to meet that energy with chaos, going full modern-day gladiator, yelling about war and history and putting it all on the table, but the contrast only made AJ look more composed. When Joshua said he was carrying boxing on his back, that he'd been called in to end Jake Paul's show for the purists, it felt like a man accepting an assignment rather than selling a fight. Jake pushed back by claiming he's done more for boxing than anyone in the last decade, snapping at critics and fully embracing the role of the disruptor who thrives on doubt.
And I was then called in to fight on Ngannou, and I knew there was a lot riding on it. And with this one, in terms of putting boxing on my back, it just seems like I'm being called in to, I don't know, save the pugilists, the purists of boxing and so on. People don't like the fact that I'm fighting Jake. Whether that concerns me or not is another question, but if we look at the people that don't want me to be here, but they want me to put an end to Jake Paul's show, I understand it, and that's why I have to carry boxing on my back with this fight.
AJ framed the moment like Jordan versus Iverson, legacy versus rebellion, and even when asked about losing, he joked his way through it, smiling like the pressure didn't even register. By the end, it didn't feel like trash talk anymore. It felt like belief crashing into experience, noise colliding with silence, and two realities lining up for a moment where only one of them is going to survive once the bell rings.
When you got the call saying, okay, now he wants to fight you.
Oh, I just thought a brilliant opportunity, man, you know? Because I understand what his audience tuning in does for me, what it does for boxing as a whole, and the ripple effect it has on the industry that I'm in. Because when Jake moves aside, boxing still benefits. I'm a pure boxer, so boxing still benefits. I just thought, what a great opportunity to perform in America just before Christmas. We had been training anyway. Everything was stacked up for it to happen, and I think it's a great date to happen on the 19th of December.
And that's where the energy quietly flips, because right after all that press conference noise, chest puffing, destiny talk, and underdog mythology, we slide into this Eddie Hearn Anthony Joshua conversation, and suddenly it feels like the grown-ups walked into the room. The mics are lower, the tone is calmer, but somehow the confidence gets louder. AJ's talking like a man who isn't chasing moments anymore. He's collecting leverage. No offense taken, no ego bruised, no YouTuber resentment, just pure clarity. He sees Jake Paul for what he is: momentum, audience, opportunity, and eventually a wall you run into if you keep snowballing long enough.
The thing is with boxing, it's a nasty game. You don't want to do it. You go to the gym to keep fit. As Eddie said, you can see this guy's got a bit of talent. Hey, get some gloves on. Next minute, hey, what do you want to do, some sparring? Next minute, you get carded. Next minute, you're fighting. Next minute, he's fighting Tank. Next minute, he's fighting Anthony Joshua. Boxing is just like it's a snowball effect. It just keeps rolling and getting bigger and bigger and bigger until you meet someone or you hit a wall and it all just goes.
Eddie's basically narrating the master plan like this whole thing was a weird chapter nobody expected, but everybody's cashing the check with a straight face. I love how AJ keeps repeating that idea. If you can end it early, you do it. Not for highlights, not for mercy, but because boxing isn't football, you don't owe anyone 90 minutes. And the Usyk camp talk? That's the part Jake fans should probably pause on. When a heavyweight voluntarily throws himself into the hardest training environment possible, not because he has to, but because he wants to suffer a little more. That's not a man chasing hype. That's a man sharpening the blade.
Work it did with Usyk, it made you say, I want to work with these guys.
Sergey invited me and said, you're more than welcome to come and do some training. At first, our schedules didn't align, and then our schedules aligned, and I think it was a really good decision. It's been an eye-opener. You know, people could ask me in the future, what message could you give young kids out there? I say, work harder. If you think you're working hard, do more. And if you think you're doing enough, do more. Look, that's the only way you're gonna win. His free time, well, let's say, I don't think he's been beaten as an amateur either. Anyway, He's an Olympic gold medalist, free time, unified champion. Man, like, if you wanna win, surround yourself with winners, it's basic. And it's been a really good experience, if I'm honest with you.
Meanwhile, Jake's motivation is clear: money, exposure, disruption, keep the machine moving. AJ's motivation is scarier: improvement, discipline, and this quiet belief that if you strip away the Netflix lights, the influencer aura, the whole circus tent, you're still left with a boxer who's been here before versus one who hasn't. And that's why this whole thing feels inevitable, not because Jake doesn't believe. He believes like crazy, but because belief meets reality eventually, and AJ sounds like someone who already knows exactly how that meeting goes.
Climbing for improvement. So for me, it's just really how far can I push it? How much more can I improve as an athlete? And what I'm doing now, I'm pushing myself more. I think I'm definitely improving as an athlete. And then whatever comes after that is a big bonus. So what motivates me now is the hunger to compete and the hunger to improve. And I actually like, even though it's hard, as I said 2 weeks in, I was like, what am I doing here? I kind of like the athlete lifestyle. It gives me purpose, because when I first went to the gym, I never went to kind of be a champion. I like the fitness. I like kind of looking after myself.
And just when you think the AJ Eddie section already told you everything you needed to know, the camera cuts again and the story quietly levels up. Because now we're not talking press conferences or promoter chess moves. Now we're inside the gym where excuses don't echo and reality punches back. Lawrence Okolie steps in, and suddenly this Jake Paul situation stops being theoretical. I'm listening to him and thinking, oh, so this wasn't a charity spar. This wasn't YouTuber tourism. This was real work with real grown men. Okolie straight up admits he walked in expecting Jake to be soft, expected to touch him up and leave early, and instead walked out like, hold on, why did I have to look in the mirror after that round? That's not hype, that's a professional heavyweight having a self-check moment. And the funniest part is, the moment Jake showed he could actually make him miss, Lawrence flipped the switch to full intensity mode like, nah, we're not doing friendly rounds anymore. That right there tells you everything. Jake didn't survive because people went easy, he survived because he earned respect. Now does that mean he's suddenly ready for AJ? No, but it does mean this isn't a cardboard cutout walking into the ring either. And that makes the whole thing way more uncomfortable than people want to admit.
So what was your perception of him before you went in camp and sparred him, and what's it now?
I thought he would be soft, if I'm honest with you. I thought he'd be soft. Nah, doesn't want to be in here, doesn't want this, isn't good enough, isn't whatever. And then by the time we left, the opposite. I think he's got big balls. I think he's game. I think he's I want to see him do well because he puts in the work. That's it in a nutshell. I think it's a huge ask. AJ is a massive guy, a very experienced guy, two-time heavyweight world champion. Like, for boxing, the boxer would be, it's like, you can't. Surely you can't let this guy come in and do it.
But here's where I land on it, and this is where you and I need to be honest. Okolie's respect for Jake is real, but so is his fear for what happens when heavyweight reality shows up on time. He keeps saying it. Size matters, experience matters, clean shots matter, and AJ is all three wrapped into one very calm problem. I like that Lawrence doesn't want a one-round anticlimax, not because he doubts Joshua, but because he wants the story to mean something. And that's the irony of this whole fight. Jake wants to prove belief and hard work can close the gap. AJ wants to prove that no matter how hard you work, there are levels you don't skip. One man is hoping to surprise the world, the other is preparing to remind it. And when someone like Okolie, who shared rounds with both worlds, tells you Jake is brave, improving, but still standing in front of a two-time heavyweight champion, that's not disrespect, that's perspective. So when the bell rings, we're not watching a joke, we're watching a lesson. The only question is whether it's a short lesson or one that drags just long enough to make people argue about it all weekend.
Like, you know what I mean? I want to see him go in there and do his thing. I want to see him go in there and showcase what, you know, hard work and belief can do. If our WBO world champion could come from white collar to be heavyweight world champion, then, you know, why can't Jake Paul be competitive with AJ?
How many rounds did you do with him? Do you remember?
We're doing that because he had Jared as well, so we were doing like, I don't know, 3 to 6 like every other day. So, you know, I don't know, probably like 30 something like that, 30 something rounds, maybe a bit more.
So when you zoom out and really stack everything together, the press conference tension, AJ's icy composure, Eddie quietly mapping out the long game, and Lawrence Okolie pulling the curtain back on what actually went down in the gym, this fight stops feeling like a viral experiment and starts feeling like a genuine crossroads. Jake Paul isn't crazy for believing, and he's clearly not walking in unprepared, but Anthony Joshua isn't guessing, hoping, or selling confidence to himself. He's operating on experience, structure, and habits built over years at the very top of the sport. This isn't hype versus hate, it's ambition versus accumulation, confidence versus repetition, momentum versus muscle memory. And that's exactly why this matchup has everyone split down the middle. Some of you are tuning in hoping to witness the biggest upset of the modern era. The Night Belief flips the script. Others are watching to see boxing reassert its hierarchy, to see what happens when preparation meets opportunity and refuses to blink. There's no middle ground here, and that's what makes it compelling.
Do you know what I mean? And then we had then we sparred, do you know what I mean? And I went all out, and then we just kept that same energy throughout camp. So that day I might have caught him off guard, you know, with just the intensity that I was coming with, but it wasn't any particular punch that I remember like, ooh, that one did it. It was just, I was just really on him that day. And then, like I said, he came back and then he leveled up from that one. And then from there, the coaches started coming up to me like, saying, we need that. We need you to, I need that. And I was thinking, like, fair enough. Like, if you need that, I'm gonna keep trying to give that.
So let's hear it. Is Jake daring enough to bend reality, or is this the moment where reality reminds everyone how unforgiving heavyweight boxing can be? Drop your thoughts in the comments, debate it out respectfully, and let's see where the fans really stand. And yo, don't ever forget to like, share, and subscribe to Boxing Headquarters. See you in the next one.